All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Raghav. We are doing this for the first time. Where on the debate club. Actually, the debate club is an organized is a community of people who are looking for a space to have intellectually nuanced conversations. And for the past year, we've been doing these debates, and also recently we started doing these brainstorming sessions. Now we are starting to do this, this format of discussion, which is more of a book club. And one of the reasons why I found this very important to have these book club sessions is that a lot of people don't appreciate reading enough. And I've seen in the debate sessions as well, the people come in unprepared and they don't have any foundational knowledge on the topic. They just share their surface level knowledge. So this book club is a very important step. I think we want to we should focus on creating this culture of reading in our society. I think especially India is not very good at having a large number of people who are readers. Um, and even in our academic training, it's not sufficiently emphasized. So I'm very, very pleased to announce that this is an initiative that we're taking up to sort of conduct these regular book club events. And we will figure out the right way to do this, because there have been some discussions about how exactly to do this. So we'll figure out our MO, the standard operating procedures, down the line as we experiment and do more things. So for this first session, we're doing it more like a pilot project to see what happens. And we'll be having Sandeep host this session. So Sandeep, you can come and establish the context for what we're going to be discussing today and how we're going to take things.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Raghav. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Sandeep. Today's meeting is the first session of the book club that we formed on the debate club, as Mr. Raghav has mentioned already. The book of interest is the Holy Geeta, a commentary by Swami Chinmayananda. It's a 2008 edition published by Central Chinmaya Mission Trust. And today's session is about page 1 to 10, general introduction to Bhagavad Gita. You are expected to read the part of the book intended for today's session and follow book club rules posted on WhatsApp group. And you're allowed to speak if you have actually read the book. So if you are not, you're welcome to listen to the discussions. Please note that this is not a debate session. You may present your perception and understanding of what you have read for the discussion. So you can please raise your hand to speak. Everyone will get 5 minutes to speak. Then we will switch to unmoderated section to have one-on-one discussion. Yes, Raghav, go ahead.
Okay, so growing up in India, I've always I've been fascinated with the Western, philosophies and literature and all these things. And there has not been a sufficient, I guess, for me, sufficient motivation to pursue Bhagavad Gita in a very, very intellectually rigorous manner. But because the whenever I see people who are praising the Gita, right, they're mostly these bhakti folks. I've never really had an affinity for bhakti, and it's always these people singing bhajans, and they are the ones who are really singing praises about the Gita. And so I've never really had the appeal, but I have over the past several years, I've seen people talk about these nuances, and for me, it is of interest that these are very significant pieces of text and they're very complex. I understand that. So I've been interested, and so I'm jumping into this from that perspective. I just want to establish that is a perspective in which I'm jumping into things. And I don't know very in depth. Don't have in depth knowledge about the Mahabharata or what's in the Gita, and a lot of these things. I've seen things here and there in popular media. I mean, we all grew up with this. In Doordarshan, there was this Mahabharata, right? And I was a very small kid at the time, and that's one of the earliest exposures of what the story of Mahabharata is, and all these things. So I have some inkling as to the context in which this whole thing is written. So that is the perspective I'm coming in from. And I was reading the initial pages of the book, and one of the things that I noticed was that there was a very scientific explanation as to what yoga is, and as to what is the ultimate union of these things. And that was really fascinating for me. Because these are all things that I got into maybe like I would say 10 years ago when I was looking into meditation and spirituality and things like that. I was looking into the Buddhist way of doing things, and I also looked into Yoga Sutras as a book, and I got a very good understanding of what the Yoga Sutra was talking about. And I feel like the Bhagavad Gita is like, at least the earliest, the introductory pages or the ones before that, they were very detailed, talking about the mechanism of the human mind and the mechanism of the human body. So from reading the introductory pages, like I just have like a very I'm enthusiastic about it, and I'm looking forward to like reading up things, but I also am expecting a certain level of rigor in the explanation. I don't want to just have something that is pleasing to the majority of the people. Majority of the people, they're not rigorous in their understanding. If you like distract them with a few logical statements, they would not even like they would not even like question it deeply before accepting it. They would just accept it because it sounds reasonable. But I'm not like that, and I want to have that rigorous understanding of things, and I'm looking forward to having that kind of like rigor in the literature. And I'm also trying to see, like, because it is advertised as like a um like a practical guide to the Vedas or something. So I'm very keen to see more about that, and I also want to hear from other people here as to you guys what perspective you guys are coming in from.
Would anyone like to speak?
Can I?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, talking about Gita, like I have read the uh, one of the edition of Gita, that is the ISKCON one, the Bhagavad Gita as it is version. So, in that book, that gave me the foundational understanding of preliminary understanding of what Gita wants to convey. But after reading twice, I have understood. I have figured out that there are some translation error which are strategically done on the books. Like there are some words which are which the word gyan is mentioned in the shloka, in Sanskrit shloka, which was translated as bhakti in many of the places. And the commentary, there is a translation of that as it is translation. There are some error in that, and apart from that, there is a big commentary of that translation, which does not relate with what the verse says. So that was my previous experience with Gita. But uh, then I have understand Gita, just the translation part, and just converted few of the shlokas, um, just grammatically, like the word to word translation. If you do, like the meaning comes very scientific, like the current scientific understanding um aligns with that. And I want ki if we read Gita, we have to check ki is this understanding aligns with what the current understanding of science or any other factual knowledge that we have. So that will give us more foundational understanding of what Gita is, because the truth should always align at the final point. It may start from different points, but it must end at some common point. So I think that the uh, the the basis that we are living, there are some philosophy that we are also following, like we follow hedonism, like we want more money, we want more xyz things. We have to understand how that philosophy aligns with what Gita says, and hence you can relate all those philosophies with our life and see that which one is more applicable and which one can help us give a more give a life with more clarity. So I think we should go in that sense ki the verses should be understood in a very objective fashion and must relate to our lives. Otherwise, it's just like discussion on philosophy. That's it.
Yeah, Avantika, you can go ahead.
So for next 2 minutes, uh,
Yeah.
Hi.
If you're finished, I'll let Avantika go ahead. Do you want to continue?
I have nothing more to say right now. I have to gather some content.
Yeah,
La-
okay. Then. I'll let Avantika speak.
Hi everyone. So I am Avantika, and I don't participate in the debate club frequently, but I have been a of it for a while now, and I am part of other book clubs where we are into habit of reading actual books and coming and discussing. So this is the point about Gita that excited me a lot, and I decided to join this book club when it was rolled out. So this place where I am coming right now is I haven't read any form of Gita in entirety so far. So with this book club, I do want to read it step by step, page by page, like Raghav mentioned. And also, like Raghav mentioned, I am someone who, if given a few logical arguments, I tend to get into agreement pretty soon, exactly like what Raghav mentioned. So, if something sounds logical, I'll be quick to accept. And maybe, let's say, after a month or so, I'll be like, okay, now I don't agree. Now I have something else in my thoughts. But at that point of time, I tend to get convinced. Also, on a parallel track with context of Gita, I find myself relating to Arjuna in the context of Gita in a way that how I see Arjuna is he was trying to have things, to get things black and white and trying to avoid conflict. Somehow get into a situation where I don't have to fight, I don't have conflicts, and the situation is black and white. I many a times in my life I find myself that kind of a person where the conflicts are not convenient for me, and I don't want to get into conflicts, yet I get into it, and then I take extreme stances which is not diplomatic and such. And how I look at Krishna is he is trying to convince Arjuna that yes, ideal situation is black and white, everyone gets their fair share, but when it doesn't happen, you have to fight for your rights. What is dharma? Basically, that is what the Gita says. You have to fight for your dharma. And when it comes to the practical life, dharma can be in various aspects, because they were the kings and rulers, for their dharma was right share of what they will rule over. In our lives, dharma is whatever, maybe we are working in the corporate space. So, whatever is legit over there, till what time we should be assertive and falling into line, and what at what point we should put the foot down. So those are the kind of lessons I think Gita has for us. I went through the introduction of this particular version of the Gita that we have chosen for our book club, and I could find some illustrations which gives me an initial indication that this book is for our generation, where it can talk with lot of logic and sense, and I'm looking forward to it. That's all from my end. Thank you.
Sandeep, if you're speaking, then you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll let Prince speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, regarding Gita, before I put forth my understanding of the 10 pages, I actually don't see Gita as a religious text, because uh, what happens is, and this is what I saw in the interpretations that I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the author's name, but that interpretation held. Because when you look at a specific book through religious lens, then the philosophical ideas of realism does not seem so inviting and so prosper. there is no realistic prospect in the whole book. And because I saw 2 or 3 lines where one line was that this is not a warmongering book of Kshatriyas. Well, if we look at it, it is a warmongering book of Kshatriyas, because the major dharma of Kshatriya is to fight and protect uh, their areas and their kingdoms. So I guess this is the issue that I have when Bhagavad Gita is looked with a religious lens, that many of the quote unquote Machiavellian principles are not taken into account, because some philosopher rightly pointed out that most people may not accept it, but almost everyone is a Machiavellian in their personal lives. So just like idealism, which is a great philosophical way of looking at things, realism is also one of the philosophical ideas that needs to be given equal importance. And I guess that is why I'm kind of more influenced from the ideas of Buddha, or to some extent even the Mahavir Jain ideas of looking at life and this whole happiness and predicament of this thing. So as far as my understanding is concerned, because there's little we can talk about, because it was the first 10 pages were related to someone's interpretation of the book. Gita should be looked at with a kind of realistic principles, taking into account what Vedanta has to say, and I guess then we can kind of come to a better conclusion of in accordance with what the book has to give us. Yeah, that's just my personal opinion, and people can very much disagree with it, because it's just opinions at the end of the day. Yeah, Phoenix.
Yes, Raghav, go ahead.
Yeah. So actually, that was a good point. One of the things, even when I was reading the Yoga Sutras, right, I felt like a lot of these people interpreting this, right, in Indian society especially, they have this like sort of like worship. They have these worshippers, these people who do have these interpretations. Like even in this book, I found it really unattractive when I think in the very early stages, early pages, right, they were comparing Krishna to the author of this book, Swami Chinmayananda and the whatever, right? Um, so they're saying that Krishna only taught it to Arjun, but Swami Chinmayananda like made sure to teach this Bhagavad Gita to a lot more people. And they were making this comparison, which was really like, this is only something that a bhakti person would do. They have this like unshakable like devotion and affection, and it kind of like clouds everything else, and they say these things that kind of like reflect their sentiment about things, and not the actual factually accurate dispassionate description that I personally appreciate. And I think what Prince was talking about is something similar to that, right? That you basically have this interpretation that is meant to appease the current generation, because like maybe today people think that it's not a good thing if a book advocates for this Kshatriya like warmongering thing. But maybe if that is what it actually is, then that is what I want to hear from the person who's interpreting it for me. I don't want to hear some appeasing like flowery, like good stuff. Like I don't want to have this like fluffed up decorated stuff. I want it to be as raw as possible, so that like I can have a direct connect with the thing that was actually of value. I don't want you to sugarcoat it for me, so that like you can sell it better for the current generation. And that is where I have like a lot of trouble, because like in India, I think the only thing that sells is the sugar coated stuff, like a lot of masala added stuff. And I hate it so much. That's one of the reasons why I've like refrained from getting into these things, because like I feel like it is all marketed for a different kind of a person who's not rigorous in the intellect, and they just want some kind of a consolation, emotional consolation, something, maybe there's something that brings them tears in their eyes when they hear these things. And I I find it like such a um I find it to be such a unproductive thing to pursue those things. I don't want to be consoled. I think it's a waste of time for me to be consoled. So that is one of the unattractive things, and I'm not really sure. I don't want to make a judgment on this particular author or the book in itself, because I haven't read enough to know this, but I did see those red flags. Because even some of the explanations that they've given for the body and the mind and all these things, right? I just feel like it's not as rigorous as I would like it, because it is just like giving the impression of rigorousness without actually having the substance. And I did feel like that when I was looking at the diagrams, right? They had these like subjective mind, objective mind, and all these diagrams, and I just felt like this was not a rigorous analogy. And I'm not sure if that is part of the book or is this the interpretation of the person who's writing it. I want to get some clarity from you guys as well on this.
Yeah, so the book does come with some kind of a prejudice in our own minds because of its nature and its history, right? So we wouldn't have this kind of a prejudice, or maybe reservations about maybe like a book which like a normal book, written by an author, which doesn't have a religious or philosophical angle to it. So yes, I agree with Raghav and Prince's analysis of it. And I do have some questions of myself, if I can bring up the questions. Yeah, so I do. The question is like, yes, again, it is a perception of the commentator, or the entire the book itself will be the perception of the commentator. So because personally I don't speak Sanskrit, so I have to take the commentary or like translation of it. And the second thing is, do we actually need to read Mahabharata, and will it have any influence on understanding what Gita itself is? I'm not sure about that as well. And the other thing is, does Arjuna as a king supposed to be discriminating in the name of the greater good, which is mentioned in the page number 1. Arjuna got shattered in his mental balance and lost his capacity to act with true discrimination. So when we think about a king, we tend to have like an image that is usually non-discriminative. So and the other question is yeah, and there is this line, religion is philosophy in action. I really don't understand what actually is. Maybe someone can shed light on it. And I think I made some questions on page 8. Yeah, so this one actually I think is the main point of discussion here, that Dhritarashtra is made, he sent Sanjaya to sow seeds of dangerous ideas into the mind of Arjuna. So I asked myself, is even Dhritarashtra is a better king than Arjuna if he knows how to win a war? And so that led me to ask why Krishna has to choose Pandavas over Kauravas. Does it mean there is an inherent assumption what is good or evil? The book itself, does it assume that what is good or evil before even it tries to let the reader decide what it is? So yeah, I think that is I think Raghav covered it pretty much well, that the diagrams itself are like not very rigorous. They're just like brushing over things like subjective and objective mind, and do they exist together, or the space between them, something like that. So I think diagram A, diagram B is like, the book is trying to say that usually humans have like brains that are similar to diagram A, and if you would like to make it into a better version of your psychological well-being, that should be diagram B. I think that is what this is trying to say. That is what my understanding is. Yeah, if anyone would like to add something about it.
Yeah, and also
let me-
I wanna add more. So this thing, right? This whole like interpretation, and I'm worried actually. I'm worried about the choice of this book. I'm not really sure why this was chosen. But this I often like I'm wary of this kind of interpretation. For example, this whole um statement that Arjuna had a shattered mind. Now, this sounds like more like an interpretation to me, and I don't know if I would think the same if I had like unadulterated access to the main source of the literature, right? So that's what I do find it somewhat I find a hesitation in myself in trusting this fully, but I also want to give it a shot. But I also want to understand, why was this version chosen? Was it a specific reason why this was chosen? And also, like, I don't know if we should allow, like, 5 minutes per each person. I think we should just have more of fluid conversation, because like we are all people who read the book, right? Who read the pages. So why don't we just have like a more fluid conversation? You can just like instead of raising hands, you can just like speak, because it's a very small group, right?
Yeah, sure. So I think we chose this book randomly, I should say, because there is a prejudice that ISKCON, the versions of ISKCON would be like
Mhm.
more biased. Not
Mm.
that this book will not be biased, but it was like hunch that this might be a better book, but there is no a real, there is no quantitative analysis. Okay, this is a better one. I myself doesn't have any idea, so I just asked around in the group, and someone has suggested, and I think 2 or 3 people have also voted. Okay, this is a better book of what they have known. So we
Mm.
went ahead and chose this book for the book club.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna like post a link in the chat here, because like I am looking up like what is considered to be the most authentic version in English, and there have been some people who have mentions. I think there was something called Sadak Sanjeevani, and that one is apparently considered to be the most authentic. I do want to explore, like, do we want to continue with this version, or should we like shift?
yeah, certainly.
Raghav, even I have heard that Geeta Press Gorakhpur is as unadulterated as possible. I have also heard lot many times.
What is Gorak? I don't know if that is what this is though. The
Geeta
first,
Press Gorakhpur, that is the publisher of lot of text in this category.
no, but Gita Press itself has like multiple variants of the Bhagavad Gita. So I
Okay.
don't know which one exactly you're talking about.
I think
Okay,
we
the list you shared almost like first 3 is probably all from Geeta Press. I got your
Yeah.
point.
I think
I
I
even
think
just
this holy
read
thing.
Gita without any commentaries, just understand by ourselves.
No, but that could be like very dense, right? Like, because I don't know if that would be ideal, because it's not a translation. It is interpretation, right? So
Has did the same thing, so we can without using their understanding, we can try to understand by our own understanding.
hmm.
Why
I
we need
think
to understand those concepts that they say in those commentaries and use that concept in understanding the verses.
for
Hmm.
that approach, we'll need to read it fully. We can't go by chapter because that won't give us our own understanding.
By
With
the way,
time
there is.
we can connect the dots. Now we can have conversations and we can connect the dots which are uncleared in the previous verses.
So if you want without interpretation, then the ISKCON one is probably one of the best, because it firstly it translates the whole text or the verse, and then after that it goes into the whole interpretation.
We can start with
By the
that.
way, there is another book called Gita as It Is. Have you guys heard of this? I think somebody so called
Yeah,
has read.
that is the ISKCON one.
Is only the ISKCON one.
Okay, this is Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhunan.
Yeah, I
Prabhupada.
actually posted it in the group, but it was
Hmm.
dismissed initially, so we selected this actually.
What was the rationale for dismissing that?
Because
Interpretations are also there, na? So those
Yeah,
interpretations,
so it
it is
was
more towards the bhakti line.
Hmm.
more of
yeah,
Okay.
the of this book is Bhagavad Puran, not Vedant. Like the core of Gita should be the Vedas, but they discarded it many times, saying it Mayavad. Mayavad
Oh,
means
okay.
Vedantic. So they don't want Gita to be interpreted in Vedantic way. They are interpreting it in a Puranic way.
Hmm. Okay, let's look up this other one, the Bhagavad Gita Sadak Sanjeevani thing. Maybe I'll just like share my screen so that like we can see, because like I think it is important that we finalize the version.
I think I've searched. Like, I've shared two books, Gorakhpur one and Chinmayananda. Other books I haven't got in online. That's why I think we have chosen this one out
Hmm.
of these two. In Gorakhpur ones, there are no commentaries on that, I think.
Gita Sadak Sanjeevani. Okay, hold on 1 second. So this one, right? Yeah, this is the one that Gorakhpur thing, right? Gita Press. By the way, like I do have like a source to get Kindle versions of books. Maybe if I find something, I'll post it. But it's so hard to like even the discussion around which version is best is something that I think it's very um,
Yeah,
it's
that's the
very
thing,
muddled
right?
with
It
people's
is
perceptions, because like you can only go by reviews, and the reviews of the reviews of the book could be something that is like posted by somebody who's like a bhakti person, right?
I think even if we consider the Chinmayananda version, I think there is like this the Sanskrit verses with the transcription, and there is a translation as well, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, there is
So
a
I guess
translation
then
in
it may
italics.
work.
Sorry?
So I guess then it may work because those who want to read it without interpretation can just read the translation part, and those who want to
Yeah.
No,
do it
but
that way.
So
when we are having a book club discussion, it is important that we're all on the same page, and to like what the
Should
thing
we read
is.
Gita by Adi Shankaracharya?
Uh,
He is the founder of Advait.
this one seems like very not so popular. It's like 22 ratings, but I don't know if that
That
says
means
anything.
it's a good book.
Exactly, maybe that's what it means, because like majority of the people go towards what is like decorated and sweetened up. This is a very old text and essential version of the one's library. When was this? Do you know when this was written? Because like that also could be a good thing if it was written like maybe like in the past century or something.
It's written 100 years back, I think.
1897.
Okay. I thought it's written by Adi Shankaracharya.
It is, but it says here that it was since the first publication in 1897, being best available version, best available English translation of Shankaracharya's commentary.
Yeah, maybe someone translated that
I think
because
we need the oldest version for more accurate.
Yeah, I think what this is basically, this is an English translation, which is a modern version of what he came up with, and that was the first version was like 1897, and it's been translated into English since then.
Adi Shankaracharya wrote the commentary in Sanskrit only, and
Yeah.
that was translated by him.
Hmm. So should we opt for this?
do the it does have any sample pages in there? I think there is only covers, right? Yeah.
See, Bhagavad Gita by commentary, Sri Shankaracharya. Also, I asked ChatGPT and it says like if you want a great English translation of Bhagavad Gita, look for Eknath Easwaran's version. It's accessible yet profound, offering clear explanations. Another popular one is Swami Sivananda, which comprehends every read.
You can write accurate version of it.
George Feuerstein's translation. Scholarly accuracy includes the original translations along with the okay. We need to look into this as well because like I usually find that Western interpreters have a different angle, which could be, I mean, it could be inferior or superior, but it often tends to be true, which is so hard to find in India. Like most Indian authors, like they don't have that rigor, I feel like.
And plus, their interpretation is often colored by whatever
No, that is also
whatever.
true. Yeah, that Western interpretation is also like colored by their own cultural understanding of things. So it is not an easy call, you know. Yeah, it seems promising, but let's see the sample on this one. Was there a specific page that you wanted to go to, Sandeep?
You can check the contents and then we'll see how the
Introduction, the twofold Vedic religion, the purpose of the divine incarnation, the Gita and the commentary, Jnana Yoga means the supreme bliss, or Karma Yoga means the supreme bliss. Physics subject, plus discourse. So I think it's giving like a. Say that
It's
again.
like it seems to me that it's one of the most purest because it's just discourse and almost
it is
translation.
not trying to
Yeah.
project its perception. It is just like how you say it does sound like a little more towards translation than commentary.
The discourse. I think this is just like a summary of things before they get into the actual translation. So this is actually good, right? This is actually a very accessible way of doing it. This is a Puranic verse sparkling there. Is quoted here by the commentary. I don't know if this requires like previous knowledge because like some of these things, right? It assumes a previous knowledge about these things.
Yeah, that is what, right? It is the do we need to have that extensive knowledge about Mahabharata itself? I'm not sure. I'm just hypothesizing that because it is a part of that.
No, but that introduction from that other book, right? It was saying that you do need both.
Yeah.
Was it George? Yeah. Although the Bhagavad Gita episode in India's greatest epic, the was composed over 2,000 years ago, activism. I think this one, honestly, is probably not going to assume your knowledge too much, right? Because like they're probably like writing for a Western audience and they don't have to understand everything. And honestly, right, like we, even though we are Indian, right, I do think that we are somehow semi-Western. We're speaking in English, and we don't have deep knowledge about some of these things. Maybe this is the one that we should go for. I mean, I don't think it is possible for us to find a version that is completely devoid of this personal interpretation.
Yeah, the absolute way of reading it without any coloring is learn Sanskrit and read it, I think. But that is not possible, I guess. So we have to choose probably something and then go with it.
So the most of these Gitas, ISKCON one or even the Gita Press one, they do that, right? They'll write the Sanskrit words, then they'll do a word by word Sanskrit to other language translation, and then they'll insert the interpretation. So we can skip reading the interpretation and can read only the word by word translation and then discuss it over here.
No, I think, see, the reason why, I mean, obviously if you're going for that, right, it doesn't matter which version because
Yeah.
I think all versions will do that. But I think it does add value in terms of accessibility if you have like a proper introduction, like proper interpretation that is devoid of this extra coloring or decorations.
It is
Because
like
it
a
does make it
critique,
accessible. Yeah.
It is like a critique, like let's say a book is written and then a critique has to put it in a way that it is not too much biased towards something. So all these books are like critiques of the original version of it, right? So they have their own way of putting it out there, and then it could sway our understanding as a whole. But
yeah, I think this one, right, I like the way it is described. I mean, it's giving you the context, first of all, even before we get into things. It is like talking about the Mahabharata and what is it, like how long it is a book and all this, right? I think this is like very helpful, at least for me. I want to know from other people, like, what do you guys think?
Usually other books just jump into it right away, assuming that there are a lot of assumptions when it comes to introductions and commentary. There is no stage that is set for the reader to make up his own mind.
Yeah. I'm actually favoring this one. I want to know what other people think. Ankit,
Do they have the Sanskrit verses, or it is directly
let's see.
translated?
I think it's even like telling you how to pronounce each of these things.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they
because
must
it
have.
is
They must have it.
non-Indian audience, so they have to make it very nuanced.
Let me see if they actually have the Sanskrit verses as well. I'm not sure if this is actually a new. It says new translation, so they must have the. Yeah, they have it. They have the actual Sanskrit words, and then I guess we call this a transliteration, right? And then the actual translation. So they have it, yeah.
Okay.
So what do you guys think about like switching to this one?
We can try. I think the best way to read Gita is to understand yourself as Arjun, and Krishna is advising you. And how will you understand that? Not from the third person view.
Right. So, and also one more thing I wanted to ask you guys is like, how, like, are we doing this in like a sequential manner? Maybe like every week we'll connect and we'll discuss this, or how is it going to work? Soul Book Club thing.
So, see, I just made a rudimentary conversion of how many pages are there. So I put it like 5 days a week and then 10 pages a day. I just divided them and then I made a number of how each chapter, how many days and each chapter gets. It's just a rough way of doing it. But
I think don't go by the chapters. Go by the verses. 700 verses are there in total.
Okay.
So we can. How many verses should we cover? In that sense, it would be great.
Well, then, unless you read the entire book, I'm not sure how we are able to make out how many verses are there, or maybe you have to get data from other sources.
Let's start from 2 verses, and then if if we have enough sufficient more time, we can cover more later.
Yes, there are people here who are part of other book clubs. So, what do you suggest? How should we go about the number of days or weeks we should allot?
Yeah, as far as the book clubs are concerned, in my experience, it is usually fluid, right? It depends on, of course, from on the members of the book, members of the book club. So it's flexible, right? We can have a meeting every week or every month. So it's about all the convenience of the readers. So there is not like a obviously not set into stone. If a lot of readers are not available at some point, it will be postponed, something like that. It is usually at convenience of the members of the book club.
How about we do this like once a week? Because like I don't think once a month, I don't know how effective that will be.
Even
Maybe
I
once,
believe that we should keep once a week, smaller content, but
yeah.
more frequent. Anyways, we are recording, so anyone who misses have a chance to catch up on one small portion that was missed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
usually
have,
the session itself is usually around revolves around a certain topic, and then the next session actually revolves on certain topics. But again, obviously there are connection between the chapters itself, right? So it's not a big deal. It's
okay, so let's
yeah.
settle on the frequency, the duration, and the content size. So I think we're okay with like once a week, and we'll have like specific exceptions in case like a lot of people are busy. For example, imagine if like Diwali was on Sunday or something, and we're doing it every Sunday. We probably want to take the day off. So we can come up with like individual exceptions, but we can go with the general schedule of like once a week, and we will have the session be like 1 hour long. Is that okay? 1 hour.
Yeah, that's a setting point. If not enough, we'll extend it
Yeah.
depending on context.
So yeah, okay. So then 1 hour, and then we'll try to keep the reading size. So we want to measure it by the number of verses, or is it like page number to page number, or how do we want to do this?
I can do a verses wise thing, but I think some verses have more discussions to do than some verses, right? It's we have to go with the flow, I guess. So we can make a rough estimate, and then if it is not enough, we can extend the same topic to next week, something.
Yeah.
And
Actually, I don't know how these verses are counted. Like, is it in the text itself? It is like given, is it? Is the verse? This is the verse.
yeah, if you check, there are like
See, in that
there
case, right? Like
was
we'll have both of those. We'll have the verses as well as the page numbers. So we'll just like do, I guess, like mention both of those, saying that this is the next version. Is that okay for everybody?
there are like there is a one verse which is explained for 2 pages, and there are like 3 verses which is explained for just half a page. So it's sometimes like flexible about how much pages they take.
Yeah. So maybe at the end of each session, right, we'll discuss like what is the next verse or whatever, next set of pages and all these things. We'll discuss that, and then we'll.
So we'll be reading that version that you pulled up, right? What is the status?
Yeah. So I'll try to see if there is a version, like a file available, and I'll share that, and I think that one. So maybe even this one, right? I don't have all the pages in that Google this thing because it's a preview. So I'll see that, and then I'll share the details in the WhatsApp group after this call. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. We have yeah. Go
I
ahead.
guess
Anyone
the
else?
next targets, the next weeks.
What's
Targets is a weird word, but
yeah. So I think for the next week, right, we'll just like go through the same process that we did. Right now, what we did was just like to read the preface or the introduction thing before the actual translation starts, right? We'll find the equivalent of that and then like do that, and we'll settle on the details in the chat. But I want to also like bring your attention to something. in specific, which is that, you remember like how we were talking about, like we need to restrict it to 5 people. Like right now, that even though we made it like completely open, now we only have 5 people. That's how these things work. So yeah, I think this is something that we can just agree on. That we'll keep it open. We'll see, like, who's coming in, who's actually wanting to do this.
Raghav, as you'll mention that people who get access to mic are the ones who have read it, that definitely makes the audience the way we are wanting to have.
Yeah. By the way, this version also has like a few pages of preface. Okay, they have a preface from page 10 to page 14. So it's like 4 pages of preface, and maybe we can also include the first chapter, maybe. So in the first chapter, it just goes over the transliteration, pronunciation of Sanskrit, and then you have the actual Mahabharata. Okay, so we'll do the preface and the Mahabharata chapter, because in the Mahabharata chapter, it is just talking about the Mahabharata as a piece of text. Okay, and that is coming up to a certain number of pages. I think it's like maybe not.
What is the author's name?
It's called. Hold on 1 second. George Feuerstein. So the Mahabharata chapter is like from page 20 to page 26. So it's 6 pages. So we'll read the preface, which is like 4 pages, and the chapter on Mahabharata, which is like 6 pages. So there'll be 10 pages. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll do this. See, the timing of the event is also like kind of like sticky, because like for me, right, like every Sunday at 11 a.m. I have another event on a different community that I'm running. So I'm running another community called the Startup Club, and where we have like Sunday 11 a.m. is our meeting time. So today actually I had to cut short the discussion to join this call. It would be nice if we can do this like maybe at different time, but like Sunday, but different time. What do you guys think?
Yeah, we can put it up at 3 p.m. something like that.
Does that
Maybe
work for
5
everybody? Prince, Ankita.
Sunday afternoon is little tricky in the sense more than often some plans come up.
We can shift to Saturday afternoon if that is okay.
Can we do it in the mornings instead?
See, Sunday morning, the problem is that my 11 a.m., right? Like that'll be there. So if you're doing it in the morning, then maybe it's like, I guess like what, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., something like that. What do you guys think about 9 a.m. on Sunday?
I'm fine.
Prince, what about you?
Yeah, I'm fine with any time on Saturdays, except for 11 to 12:30 on Saturdays.
I mean, that is like we have the other recession going on, so none of us would be around then. So yeah, we can do Sunday 9 a.m. Let's try that out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Okay. Then we'll catch up next week at 9 a.m. then. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can get a PDF version, we can just post it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that. All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.